Hello, it's Jackie Turner again. We're reading Bending Willow. Why can't I figure that out? Bending Willow. There it is. And we're up to chapter 9. I'm pretty excited because today the video on my computer died, and I thought this is not going to be great if I can't finish the book. And my wonderful husband fixed it, so yay! So the girls are trying to get to Idaho, remember? They're leaving Burning Man. So let's see how that goes. Chapter 9. Riding with Hubcap turned out to be an adventure in itself. Riley spent most of her time wondering if the old beat-up Dodge, stuffed with dirty camping gear, would make it all the way to Wells. Wire held the car's hood down as they bumped down the road, and duct tape on the seats scratched her bare legs. She and Hubcap sat in the front with Mia in between them, her sweaty legs sticking to Mia's whenever they touched. Riley finally gave up expecting the car to fall apart every time they hit a bump, and spent the rest of the time wondering what they would do when they actually got to Wells. Mia listened with wide eyes as Hubcap told story after crazy story about the adventures in his life. It seems his stories got a bit more ridiculous every time Mia giggled. At least his stories kept Mia busy. Riley watched the sagebrush slip by. Maybe when they got to Wells, they could find a bus heading north. Except for buying the candy bars on the way to Burning Man, she'd spent none of the money they brought. When they finally reached Wells, Riley realized that catching a bus might not work. Black Rock City had been a much bigger city than Wells. In fact, Wells seemed more like a wide spot in the road than a city. They pulled into the Flying J gas station, and it was one of the few buildings Riley could even see. Hubcap drove up to the gas pump, and Riley saw the Dragon car along with a bunch of cars and jeeps belonging to their other camp members pull in behind them. The girls got out of the car and stood next to Hubcap, baking in the heat as he filled the tank of the dusty Dodge. Riley looked at all the other vehicles in the caravan. They were all covered with white playa dust. So were the people climbing out of the cars. Mia and Hubcap were covered too. That meant she must be covered. Riley chewed her lip. How were they going to clean up? They couldn't ask anyone for a ride looking like desert rats. Someone touched her shoulder, and Riley jumped. She turned to find River looking down at her. He was as dusty as the rest, but his crooked smile seemed to light up his face. He glanced at Hubcap. "I'm going to walk the girls in and make sure they find their mom," River said. Hubcap gave both girls a dusty hug, and they followed River into the store. The building was much bigger than Riley had thought, and the air conditioning felt amazing. There were rows of things for sale, from food to clothes to movies. A clock on the wall told Riley it was 2 p.m. Mia started to head for the lunch counter at the far end, but River pulled the girls toward the back of the store, down the hall by the bathrooms where they couldn't be seen. He glanced around, then pulled out a fold of paper from his pocket and handed it to Riley. "My Facebook name, in case you want to keep in touch." Riley took the paper and slowly unfolded it. 2 words were inscribed in red ink. "Lucas Silvacci." "Lucas?" she asked. "Yep, that's my real name." "Oh." She smiled shyly up at him. "I like it. You two ought to stay in the bathroom till we're gone. I'll tell Hubcap your mom was here and took you out the back door." River stood, shifting from one foot to the other, then leaned down and placed an awkward kiss on her cheek. His face was red, and he said, "You take care now. Let me know when you get where you're going." Riley nodded. She reached up carefully, touching her burning cheek as River knelt down and gave Mia a huge squeeze. You take care of each other, will ya? The girls nodded. River stood and walked away. Then he glanced back over his shoulder. And come back to Burning Man next year so we can hang out again, okay? Riley smiled and waved. Probably not, she thought. Then again, if someone had told her a week ago she'd be running away and having all these crazy experiences, she never would have believed it. Miracles happen. Maybe I will see you again, River. She desperately hoped so. Riley frowned as she and Mia stared at each other in the bathroom mirror. How would they ever get clean enough to ask someone for a ride? Number 35, your shower is ready. The announcement bursting out loud over the speaker startled Riley. Then she grinned. Did you hear that, Mia? We're going to take a shower. Mia frowned. When Riley felt they'd been in the bathroom long enough for everyone to leave, she grabbed Mia's hand and headed down the hall. A quick glance into the main store showed the coast was clear. She dragged Mia up to the checkout counter, promising her lunch if she'd just keep quiet for a minute. The clerk, a teenage girl with a large nose, looked down at them, and her lip curled like they were a couple of ugly bugs. Can I help you? My mom asked me to buy us a shower, Riley said, with as much confidence as she could muster. Burners cost more because they take more water, the clerk said, as if Riley was about to use the last drop of water in Wells, Nevada. Okay. $7. You're number 42. Riley gulped and carefully counted all the bills in her hand. Exactly 7. But they had to have a shower. If they didn't get rid of the playa dust, they'd never be able to get a ride. She handed the money to the clerk with an attitude, and received a small receipt with the number 42 printed on it. I'm hungry, Mia groaned and held onto her stomach like she was starving. You promised. Let's look around first, Riley said. They needed food, but it had to be something that didn't cost too much. She wandered down one aisle after another, shaking her head. As Mia pointed at cookies and chips, Riley found a small travel-sized shampoo and decided they'd use shampoo as soap for their shower. Then Mia spotted the pizza. You promised! She dragged Riley over to the glass display case and pointed. The pizza smelled delicious. They could get one huge piece and a Coke for $5. Riley carefully counted out $5 in change from her grandma's bag of coins. The bag was still mostly full, but it was largely dimes, nickels, and pennies. She'd used most of the quarters. There was no way they'd be able to afford a bus ticket now. After eating camp food for a week, pizza was the best thing Riley had ever eaten, and the soda was so refreshing she thought she might die of happiness. She slowly chewed the last bite as a loudspeaker sparked again. Number 42, your shower is ready. That's us, Mia, come on. They headed back to the counter where the cranky clerk jabbed her finger toward the hallway as if Riley was an idiot for asking where to find the showers. Riley led Mia down the hallway past an open room labeled Trucker's Lounge. The room had a big screen TV, and several truck drivers lounged around in comfortable chairs watching TV or talking. Mia gasped. Look! Riley clapped her hand over Mia's mouth, stunned by the sight of their two faces on the TV screen. It took a moment to realize the pictures were last year's school pictures. With dust covering them and the braids in Mia's hair, they didn't look like those pictures at all. The girls have been missing over a week now, and authorities still have no leads on their whereabouts. If you have any information, call a secret witness. Riley swallowed hard and glanced at the truck drivers. No one was looking at them. She pulled Mia away from the TV and down to the women's showers. The room was bright and clean with white paint, a long mirrored wall, and several shower stalls. Only one had a key on the outside. She bent down to check and saw feet in every other stall. Slowly she opened the door with the key and found that it was empty. Inside sat a small bench, a clean towel, a bath mat, and a tiny bar of paper-wrapped soap. There were even hooks for hanging their clothes on. That's when Riley realized she'd never paid for the shampoo. She had put it in her pocket when the pizza came and forgotten about it. Forget it, she decided. They'd paid enough for this shower. They shouldn't have to pay for shampoo, too. Still, she couldn't just steal the shampoo. She'd pay for it when they left, even if they'd been overcharged for the shower. Riley looked at Mia's hair. We're going to have to take out your braids. No, I don't want to. Mia backed away, shaking her head. I'm sorry, Mia. It's the only way we can get your hair clean. This argument went on until Riley firmly pushed her sister down on the bench and began pulling the rubber bands off the ends of Mia's braids. Mia sat still, tears streaming down her face, as Riley untangled the thin braids. Mia's skulking gave Riley time to think. She was scared and her mouth felt dry. They were wanted by the police. Did the police think they had killed their grandmother? No, Riley told herself. It was an Amber Alert. She'd learned about them in school. The police thought they'd been kidnapped. Her heart pounded. Should they turn themselves in? Then they might never get to Idaho. She might never get to meet her father. They might take her to the shelter again. The week at Burning Man had felt like a vacation from the real world, and now the real world was crashing down on them. Once they got this playa dust off, they'd be recognizable. What should they do? That's the end of chapter 9. I hope you're enjoying the story. And tomorrow, hopefully, we can do chapter 10. See you then.